On August 12th, 2016, at 11:47 p.m., you accept a donation that does not exist on paper. The envelope is heavier than it should be. It is delivered through an intermediary you have known for years, a logistics businessman who has never asked for anything publicly. Tonight, he does not sit down. He places the envelope on your desk, explains that the campaign's resource gap will be resolved, and reminds you that loyalty is remembered longer than speeches. You are 38 years old, a regional candidate trailing in the polls by 6 points. Your platform is clean governance, infrastructure reform, cross-party transparency. You have repeated those phrases so often they feel procedural. But campaigns are expensive. Billboards do not accept integrity as payment. When you nod, nothing dramatic happens. No threats are made, no weapons are shown. You sign no contract. But you understand the exchange. The money will fund your final 2 weeks. The money will secure airtime. And the money will tilt probability in your favor. And the money does not belong to a businessman. At 11:52 p.m., after the door closes, you move the envelope into a locked drawer. You tell yourself you will distance yourself later. You tell yourself this is temporary alignment. You tell yourself that once you are in office, you will recalibrate. What you have actually done is accept sponsorship from a structure that does not forget. You are no longer just a candidate. You are an investment. On level 1. Silent alignment. You win by 3.2%. The margin is narrow enough to feel earned, wide enough to feel legitimate. On election night, cameras capture your handshake, your controlled smile, your spouse's steady composure. No one sees the message that arrives at 2:14 a.m. Congratulations! We look forward to productive cooperation. There is no signature. Your first weeks in office are procedural. Staff appointments, budget briefings, security updates. You focus on appearing methodical, competent, independent. Then your chief of staff informs you that a certain municipal police commander is causing instability, complaints of aggressive patrols along a specific highway corridor, excessive vehicle inspections, disruptions to commercial traffic. You recognize the corridor. It was mentioned once, indirectly, during the campaign. A logistics artery. Sensitive. You are not asked to dismantle anything. You are asked to transfer the commander to an administrative role. A lateral move. No scandal, no termination. It is framed as efficiency. You sign the reassignment order in under 40 seconds. The consequence is not visible. The commander receives a new office with no field authority. Patrol frequency along the corridor drops within a week. Commercial vehicles pass without delay. You tell yourself this is political pragmatism. Elected officials make personnel adjustments constantly. Stability requires compromise. Then a second request arrives. A zoning permit delayed for environmental review. The review must conclude favorably. A warehouse expansion. Jobs for the district. Economic growth. You expedite the file. Again, nothing overt occurs. No violence, no public pressure. But you begin to notice patterns. Requests arrive through intermediaries. Always polite, always rational, always economically defensible. In exchange, campaign debts quietly disappear. A media outlet critical of you shifts tone. An opposing council member withdraws a complaint. You are not threatened. You are accommodated. The small trade-off is not your policy, it is your discretion. You begin adjusting decisions preemptively, anticipating what will be beneficial for long-term cooperation. You call it strategic alignment. You do not yet feel owned, but you have stopped asking who ultimately benefits from your signatures. Level 2. Corridor management. 3 months into office, the structure becomes visible. Not publicly, not in documents, but in patterns. Infrastructure funds are redirected toward road maintenance along 2 rural highways. Budget reallocations justified by safety statistics. Accident prevention. Freight efficiency. You are shown traffic flow models. Projected economic impact. The presentations are professionally prepared. The consultants are registered firms. You understand the roads are not the point. The roads are corridors. You approve the funding package during a closed committee session. No opposition, no headlines. It passes as routine governance. Soon after, reported seizures along those routes decline. Patrol units are reassigned to urban districts. A new police chief, recommended through your office, emphasizes community visibility over highway enforcement. You do not issue orders explicitly connected to contraband. You simply adjust priorities. The normalization is subtle. You attend public events in the morning, school renovations, at hospital expansions, then review security coordination briefings in the afternoon that carefully avoid naming the product moving through your jurisdiction. When a local journalist begins asking questions about warehouse permits and reduced inspections, a tax audit is opened into her employer's finances. The audit originates from a separate department. Legally justified. Administratively sound. You do not order retaliation. You allow momentum. Stress increases in controlled increments. But you check your phone more often. You measure your phrasing in press conferences. You avoid certain highways after sunset. Not out of fear, but protocol. Another layer dissolves when a municipal judge refuses to dismiss charges against a transporter arrested by federal agents. The case is minor, but symbolic. You are advised that judicial efficiency would be appreciated. A promotion opportunity for the judge appears in another district. You endorse it. The case collapses due to procedural error within 2 weeks. No confrontation occurs. The system demonstrates its elasticity. You begin to see that your role is not to command operations. It is to maintain an environment in which operations proceed without friction. You are not involved in logistics. You are responsible for the absence of obstacles. The moral friction weakens because the exchange feels abstract. You deal in budgets, appointments, regulatory language. Others deal in shipments. But the outcomes intersect. You tell yourself that development projects in your district are flourishing. Employment is rising. Crime statistics appear stable. You begin measuring success by surface indicators. The deeper flow continues beneath your signatures. Level 3. Mandate of silence. The first body is discovered on February 3, 2018, at 5:40 a.m. A municipal procurement officer. Mid-level. No criminal record. Found inside his vehicle on the outskirts of the district. Cause of death? Multiple gunshot wounds. Close range. Professional. You are briefed at 6:25 a.m. The police chief's tone is neutral. The officer had reportedly been uncooperative in approving a sanitation contract linked to one of the warehouse networks. You understand immediately. The message is not directed at the procurement officer. It is directed at you. By 9 a.m., a press statement is drafted. Isolated act of violence. Ongoing investigation. No evidence of organized motive. You approve the wording without edits. For the first time, the consequence is not administrative. It is physical. A person with a desk 3 floors below yours is dead because friction emerged in a system you helped stabilize. You are not asked to retaliate. You are expected to prevent recurrence. That afternoon, you convene department heads. Procurement protocols are streamlined. Discretionary review powers are reduced. Sensitive contracts are centralized under a task force reporting directly to your office. Control increases. So does responsibility. You meet privately with the intermediary that evening. He does not apologize. He explains that unpredictability creates inefficiency. Inefficiency creates risk. Risk must be corrected quickly to avoid broader instability. You nod. You instruct the police chief to redirect investigative focus toward gang rivalry theories. Forensics proceed. Reports are filed. The case stalls within procedural boundaries. The irreversible shift occurs quietly. You no longer rationalize alignment as development strategy. You accept it as operational necessity. Violence becomes a variable in governance equations. A week later, federal authorities request cooperation in a regional anti-trafficking initiative. You delay formal participation, citing jurisdictional review. Shipments continue uninterrupted. You have crossed from accommodation to protection. Not because you endorse violence, but because you manage its aftermath. Level 4. Containment architecture. By mid-2019, the requests are no longer reactive, they are strategic. You are asked to influence the appointment of a state-level security coordinator, not someone incompetent, someone predictable, someone who understands the value of measured enforcement. You leverage party alliances. You negotiate committee votes. You secure the appointment without public controversy. The structure expands vertically. With higher-level protection in place, volumes increase. More freight, more coordination, more revenue flowing through channels you do not see but feel. Your district's budget surplus improves. Public works accelerate. You inaugurate 2 bridges and a medical clinic in the same quarter. The optics are effective. The imbalance grows beneath them. A rival political faction begins questioning the sudden economic efficiency of your administration. Opposition members request audit transparency on infrastructure contracts. Social media commentary intensifies. You respond with procedure. Independent review panels are formed, staffed with individuals vetted quietly through your office. Documents are technically compliant. Irregularities are absorbed into bureaucratic language. And then a convoy is intercepted outside your jurisdiction by federal forces. Large seizure. National headlines. Analysts begin mapping regional patterns. Your name is not mentioned, but you notice the shift in tone. For the first time, you feel monitored beyond your influence. Federal intelligence units operate outside your appointment power. Their presence is statistical, not personal. Paranoia appears not as panic, but as calculation. You reduce in-person meetings. You replace direct calls with layered intermediaries. You instruct staff to separate campaign finances from development foundations with stricter accounting walls. Freedom narrows in subtle increments. You no longer travel without security briefings that include non-public risk assessments. You avoid spontaneous appearances. You avoid certain questions in interviews by redirecting to policy abstractions. At a second killing occurs, this time a local activist who had organized community protests about warehouse zoning. The act is efficient, targeted, unpublicized beyond a 2-day news cycle. You do not attend the funeral. You authorize a public safety initiative in her name. Risk is no longer external. It is systemic, and you are inside it. Level 5 Executive Dependency. By 2020, you are no longer managing requests. You are coordinating equilibrium. Revenue streams tied to your jurisdiction now influence party funding at the state level. Campaign contributions circulate through layered foundations, construction consortia, and philanthropic trusts. The structure does not merely support you. It stabilizes the party infrastructure around you. Your authority increases accordingly. Committee chairs consult you before introducing security legislation. Business leaders seek your endorsement before expanding logistics hubs. You appear decisive, be informed, forward-looking. Privately, threat multiplication becomes routine. A federal task force expands its regional mandate. Intelligence briefings reference political facilitation corridors. Anonymous leaks suggest elected officials may be under scrutiny. You are advised to avoid encrypted messaging platforms that previously felt secure. You comply. Simplicity disappears from daily life. Every decision is dual-tracked: public rationale, private implication. But when allocating funds to a new port expansion, you assess not only economic benefit but which inspection units will rotate through the facility. When appointing a prosecutor, you evaluate temperament toward complex jurisdictional cases. You are no longer protecting isolated operations. You are preserving continuity. The intermediary who once delivered envelopes now speaks less frequently. Instead, younger operatives attend meetings. Efficient, educated, focused on long-term scalability. And they discuss diversification, synthetics, digital laundering channels, cross-border crypto transfers. The system modernizes faster than your political cycle. You begin to sense dependency in both directions. If enforcement intensifies, your administration absorbs shock. If your administration falters, shipments reroute through adjacent districts. You are valuable because you reduce friction, but you are replaceable because the routes exist beyond you. One evening, a state legislator who resisted your infrastructure package is detained on corruption charges unrelated to trafficking. The evidence is substantial. The timing is convenient. You did not request it. You do not question it. You understand that influence radiates outward in ways you no longer directly command. Power feels expansive in public. In private, it feels conditional. Level 6. Erosion of self-governance. By late 2021, sleep becomes operational rather than restorative. You wake at 3:12 a.m., met without alarms. You review briefings in darkness, scanning for anomalies, unexpected transfers, unfamiliar names and appointment lists, minor procurement objections that could signal resistance. Hyper-awareness replaces intuition. You no longer trust coincidence. When a federal auditor requests access to archived zoning files from your first year in office, you experience no visible reaction. You authorize partial compliance. You instruct legal counsel to delay through procedural clarification. Outwardly, you remain composed. Internally, your attention fragments. Conversations feel layered. Every ally may be collecting leverage. Every handshake may conceal recording devices. You rotate staff assignments to prevent concentrated knowledge. You limit informal interactions. Even within your household, you compartmentalize. Isolation is no longer emotional. It is structural. You notice identity distortion in small ways. When journalists ask about transparency, yet you respond with rehearsed precision that feels detached from belief. Words like integrity and public trust become technical vocabulary rather than conviction. You rationalize continuously. Stability prevents chaos. Economic growth reduces unemployment. Your district's homicide rate remains statistically stable despite underlying currents. But you track the hidden costs. A mid-level customs officer disappears after declining a transfer recommendation. Officially, he resigned. Unofficially, you receive confirmation that the situation was resolved. You do not ask for detail. Your signature now carries anticipatory weight. Before documents reach your desk, subordinates evaluate how decisions align with corridor continuity. You have trained the system to predict you. In moments alone, you recognize the distortion. You entered office to shape policy. Now policy shapes around preserving a flow you neither initiated nor control. The system does not threaten you directly, yet it envelops you. You begin to understand that departure is no longer simple resignation. It is exposure. Final reality. Continuity without you. In March 2023, a federal indictment names 3 regional officials in a neighboring state for facilitating transnational criminal logistics. Your name is not included. The absence is not reassurance. It is instruction. You review the document in silence. If the language is clinical, patterns of regulatory accommodation, strategic non-enforcement, political shielding. You recognize the architecture immediately, different names, same mechanics. You understand the equation now. The system never required your loyalty. It required your predictability. When you first accepted funding, you believed you were entering a transactional relationship. Money in exchange for selective influence. Temporary compromise for long-term authority. See, what you actually entered was an ecosystem. The corridors existed before you. The intermediaries functioned before your campaign. The revenue streams moved across administrations, across parties, across ideological differences. You were not recruited because of belief. You were recruited because of position. You were a stabilizing node. Power, you realize, was never ownership. It was maintenance. Every reassignment you signed reduced friction. Every audit you allowed to redirect absorbed attention. Every delayed cooperation request extended operational continuity. Violence, when it occurred, was not spectacle. It was correction. You did not order it. You managed its administrative aftermath. That distinction once comforted you. Now it feels irrelevant. If you resign, the party will nominate a successor. If you are indicted, another official will step in under reformist language. If you distance yourself publicly, them corridors will reroute through adjacent jurisdictions. The shipments will not pause. You were never indispensable. You were efficient. The illusion of control came from visibility, press conferences, legislative votes, ribbon cuttings. The real continuity operated beneath public cycles, indifferent to elections, adaptable to enforcement, patient with turnover. You thought power expanded your freedom. In practice, it narrowed it. You cannot dismantle the structure without implicating yourself. While you cannot fully comply with federal cooperation without destabilizing the alliances that shield you. You exist in equilibrium, too informed to detach cleanly, too integrated to claim ignorance. The permanent consequence of August 12, 2016, was not criminal liability alone. It was alignment. You became part of a mechanism that absorbs individuals and preserves function. Whether you complete your term, face investigation, or quietly transition into consultancy, the system will recalibrate. Corridors will reopen. Permits will be signed. Enforcement priorities will shift. The flow will continue. And somewhere, at 11:47 p.m., another candidate trailing in the polls will receive an envelope that does not exist on paper. The cycle does not require belief, only acceptance.